Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, far beyond the outer rim of known human territory. Their mission was simple: explore new systems and look for planets that humans could one day call home. It was routine work, but Jake never got tired of seeing new worlds and strange phenomena that filled the galaxy. The USS Defiance was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was fast and well-equipped for exploration. Jake had been commanding her for 5 years, and his crew knew their jobs well. Chief Science Officer Dr. Lisa Parker worked at her station, scanning the space ahead for anything interesting. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Davis monitored the ship's defensive systems, always ready for trouble. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez kept the engines running smoothly, making sure they could travel the vast distances between stars. Dr. Parker looked up from her console with a puzzled expression on her face. She had detected something unusual in the sensor readings, something that should not be there according to all known laws of physics. The readings showed a massive energy signature coming from what appeared to be completely empty space, about 2 light hours away from their current position. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the data himself. The energy patterns were unlike anything in the human database of known phenomena. They were too organized to be natural, too complex to be random cosmic radiation. Whatever was generating these readings had to be artificial, created by some form of intelligence. The implications sent a chill down Jake's spine because humans had never encountered any other intelligent species in their centuries of space exploration. Ryan turned from his tactical station with concern in his voice. His sensors were also picking up the anomaly, but from a military perspective. The energy signature had characteristics that suggested advanced technology, possibly some form of cloaking or stealth system. If something was hiding out there in empty space, it was using technology far beyond anything humans had developed. Jake made the decision to investigate. The USS Defiance changed course and headed toward the source of the strange readings. As they got closer, Dr. Parker's instruments began to detect more details about whatever was hidden in that region of space. The energy pattern suggested not just one large object, but multiple sources arranged in some kind of formation. The readings were consistent with a fleet of ships, all using the same type of cloaking technology. When they were still 1 light hour away, something incredible happened. The empty space in front of them began to shimmer and distort, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Slowly, shapes began to appear as if materializing from nothing. First one ship became visible, then another, then dozens more. Within minutes, the USS Defiance found itself looking at a massive fleet of alien vessels, unlike anything humans had ever imagined. The alien ships were sleek and curved, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were arranged in a perfect 3-dimensional formation that spoke of military discipline and advanced coordination. Jake counted at least 200 vessels, ranging from small fighters to massive battleships that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. The technology required to keep such a large force hidden from human sensors was staggering. Dr. Parker worked frantically at her station, trying to gather as much information as possible about these alien vessels. Her scans revealed that the ships were constructed from materials unknown to human science. Their power sources generated energy readings that were off the scale compared to human fusion reactors. Most disturbing of all, the ships seemed to be actively scanning human space, gathering detailed information about human colonies, trade routes, and military installations. Ryan's tactical analysis painted an even grimmer picture. The alien vessels were clearly warships, armed with weapons that his instruments could barely detect but which generated energy signatures powerful enough to destroy entire planets. Their defensive systems appeared to be adaptive, capable of analyzing incoming attacks and automatically adjusting to counter them. In a direct confrontation, human ships would be hopelessly outmatched. The most terrifying discovery came when Dr. Parker analyzed the data patterns flowing between the alien ships. The information being transmitted included detailed maps of human space, population centers, military bases, and industrial facilities. These aliens had been watching humanity for a long time, cataloging every aspect of human civilization with The thoroughness of scientists preparing for an experiment. Jake realized that they were looking at an invasion force. These aliens, whoever they were, had been secretly observing human expansion into space and were now preparing to strike. The timing of their discovery suggested that the invasion was imminent. Human colonies throughout the galaxy were in mortal danger, and they had no idea what was coming. The USS Defiance remained undetected for several precious minutes while the crew gathered intelligence. Dr. Parker estimated that the alien fleet had enough firepower to simultaneously attack every major human colony and overwhelm their defenses. The technological advantage was so great that human resistance would be futile unless they could find some weakness in the alien systems. That brief window of opportunity ended when one of the alien ships began to turn in their direction. Ryan's sensors detected active scanning beams sweeping toward their position. The aliens had finally noticed the small human vessel that had stumbled upon their secret gathering. Warning signals began flashing on every console as the alien scanners locked onto the USS Defiance. Jake ordered an immediate retreat at maximum speed. The USS Defiance turned and fled toward human space as fast as her engines could carry them. Behind them, several alien ships began pursuit, but they seemed more interested in observing than destroying. They followed just close enough to study human technology and propulsion systems, gathering even more intelligence about their future enemies. During the long journey back to Earth, Jake made a difficult decision. He ordered complete radio silence, knowing that any transmission could be intercepted by the aliens. The crew had to live with the terrible knowledge that millions of human lives hung in the balance, while they could do nothing but race toward home with their warning. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on every member of the crew as they traveled through the darkness between stars, carrying the news that would change humanity's future forever. 3 weeks after the USS Defiance had discovered the hidden alien fleet, the attack began. Admiral Kate Sullivan was in her command center aboard the battleship USS Retribution when the first distress signals started coming in. The messages were brief and panicked, transmitted from human colonies scattered across the outer rim of known space. The colony of New Hope was the first to report contact with unknown vessels. The transmission lasted only 30 seconds before it cut off, completely. 2 hours later, the mining station at Kepler 7 sent a similar message about strange ships appearing in their system. Within 6 hours, 12 major human colonies had either gone silent or reported attacks by unidentified alien forces. Admiral Sullivan had commanded the Sol Defense Fleet for 8 years, and she had never seen anything like this. The attacks were happening simultaneously across thousands of light years, which suggested a level of coordination that no known force could achieve. The aliens were striking at colonies that were days or weeks apart by human travel times, yet they were attacking them all at the same moment. Dr. Lisa Parker and the crew of the USS Defiance finally reached Earth after their desperate journey from the outer rim. Captain Jake Morrison requested an immediate meeting with Admiral Sullivan and the military command. When he delivered his report about the massive cloaked fleet, everything suddenly made sense. The aliens had been planning this invasion for years, positioning their forces and gathering intelligence about every human settlement. The reports from the surviving colonies painted a grim picture of the alien military capabilities. The attackers used weapons that could punch through human shields like they were made of paper. Their ships moved with incredible speed and precision, coordinating their attacks with perfect timing. Most disturbing of all, human weapons seemed to have little or no effect on the alien vessels. On the agricultural world of New Texas, Marine Colonel Ben Hayes was leading the ground defense against alien landing forces. His troops had been caught completely off guard when enemy ships appeared, in orbit without any warning. The planetary defense grid had managed to fire only a few shots before the alien vessels neutralized it, with surgical precision. Colonel Hayes had fought in 3 previous conflicts, but nothing had prepared him for this enemy. The alien ground forces moved like machines, each unit working in perfect coordination with the others. Their weapons were energy-based and could cut through human armor and defensive positions with ease. Worse still, they seemed to adapt to human tactics within. minutes of encountering them. However, Hayes noticed something interesting during the first day of fighting. When his troops used their oldest weapons, simple gunpowder-based explosives and kinetic projectiles, the aliens seemed surprised by the attacks. Their defensive systems, which could easily stop energy weapons and advanced missiles, were momentarily confused by bullets and grenade fragments. The effect lasted only a few minutes before the alien systems adapted, but it gave Hayes an idea. Back on Earth, Dr. Parker was working with the planet's top scientists to understand the alien technology. Dr. Alex Turner from the Advanced Weapons Division had been analyzing the sensor data from the USS Defiance, trying to find any weakness they could exploit. The alien ships used some form of adaptive shielding that could analyze incoming attacks and automatically adjust to counter them. Dr. Turner discovered that the alien defensive systems worked by scanning incoming weapons and calculating the optimal counter-response. Energy weapons were easily deflected because their characteristics could be analyzed during flight. Advanced missiles were intercepted because their guidance systems and warheads followed predictable patterns. However, the system needed a brief moment to scan and analyze each new threat. The breakthrough came when Colonel Hayes transmitted his observations from New Texas. His report about the aliens' confusion when facing primitive weapons gave Dr. Turner a new idea. If the alien systems were designed to counter advanced technology, they might be vulnerable to older, simpler weapons that didn't follow expected patterns. Admiral Sullivan ordered immediate testing of this theory. The USS Retribution and several other ships began modifying their weapon systems, adding simple kinetic projectiles alongside their advanced energy weapons. The first test came when alien ships attacked the orbital station around Mars. The battle was initially one-sided, with alien vessels easily destroying human defensive platforms that relied on conventional weapons. However, when the human ships began firing streams of simple metal slugs along with their energy weapons, something interesting happened. The alien shields flickered and failed for brief moments, allowing some human attacks to get through. Aliens quickly adapted to this new threat, but not before several human ships managed to inflict real damage on the enemy fleet. More importantly, the battle proved that the alien technology was not invincible. They could be hurt if humans could find the right combination of tactics and weapons. News of the successful defense at Mars spread quickly through the remaining human colonies. Engineers and military commanders began working around the clock to develop new strategies based on this discovery. They started combining advanced technology with deliberately primitive weapons, creating hybrid systems that could confuse the alien adaptive defenses. Dr. Parker made another important discovery while studying the alien communication patterns. The enemy was not using random encryption but rather a highly logical system based on mathematical principles. This suggested that they were dealing with an artificial intelligence rather than biological beings. An AI would rely on logical analysis and prediction, which might explain why primitive weapons were effective. They didn't follow logical patterns that could be easily predicted. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez worked with manufacturing facilities across human space to rapidly produce new weapon systems. Factories that had been making advanced missiles began producing simple explosive shells. Shipyards started installing basic projectile launchers alongside sophisticated energy weapons. The entire human military was adapting to fight an enemy that could counter their most advanced technology. The turning point came during the defense of Europa Station. Station Commander Rachel Stone had only a small security force and some mining equipment when alien ships arrived in the Jupiter system. Instead of trying to fight with military weapons, she ordered her people to use mining explosives and construction mechs as improvised weapons. The results were spectacular. The alien ships had no experience with mining charges that exploded on timers rather than proximity fuses. Construction mechs that moved in erratic patterns while swinging massive tools confused the alien targeting systems. The aliens eventually adapted and destroyed the station, but not before Rachel and her people had proven that human ingenuity could overcome alien technology. As reports came in from across human space, a pattern began to emerge. Colonies that relied purely on advanced military equipment were quickly overwhelmed. However, settlements that used improvised weapons, industrial equipment, and primitive explosives managed to inflict significant damage before being defeated. The aliens were learning to counter human technology, but humans were learning too. Admiral Sullivan began coordinating a new strategy based on these discoveries. Human forces would no longer rely solely on their most advanced weapons. Instead, they would use unpredictable combinations of high-tech and low-tech systems, changing their tactics constantly to stay ahead of the alien adaptation process. The war for humanity's survival was just beginning, but now they had hope that victory might be possible. The war against the alien invaders entered a new phase when humanity abandoned conventional military thinking. Captain Jake Morrison volunteered for what everyone believed would be a suicide mission. His plan was simple but desperate. Ram a cargo ship filled with primitive explosives directly into the alien command vessel. The USS Defiance had been refitted with additional armor and loaded with thousands of tons of old-fashioned gunpowder, chemical explosives, and scrap metal. Commander Amy Foster, the ship's new pilot, had experience flying cargo haulers through dangerous asteroid fields. She knew how to make a ship move in unpredictable ways that would confuse automated targeting systems. Dr. Lisa Parker had stayed aboard to monitor the alien responses during their approach. Her sensors would record how the enemy vessels reacted to their unconventional attack, providing valuable data for future operations. Dr. Alex Turner had equipped the ship with a special transmitter that would broadcast their findings back to Earth, even if the ship was destroyed. The alien fleet was positioned near the colony world of Frontier 7, systematically destroying the planet's infrastructure. Their command ship was a massive vessel that controlled the actions of hundreds of smaller craft. If Morrison and his crew could damage or destroy it, the entire alien fleet might be thrown into confusion. As the USS Defiance approached the alien formation, something unexpected happened. The enemy ships began scanning the cargo vessel, trying to analyze its weapons and defensive systems. However, their instruments found nothing but primitive chemical explosives and basic metal components. The alien computers had no experience with such crude technology and struggled to calculate an appropriate response. Commander Foster flew the ship in a wild, seemingly random pattern that defied all standard military tactics. She accelerated when she should have slowed down, turned when she should have gone straight, and made maneuvers that served no apparent strategic purpose. The alien targeting computers, designed to predict logical behavior, could not track her movements accurately. The cargo ship punched through the alien defensive screen and collided with the command vessel at full speed. The explosion was massive, sending debris and radiation across space. The primitive explosives caused damage that the alien adaptive systems could not compensate for because they had never encountered such basic technology in space combat. The alien command ship was crippled, and the entire fleet fell into disarray. Without central coordination, individual ships began making mistakes and leaving gaps in their formations. Human forces watching from nearby systems saw the confusion and began their own attacks, targeting the disorganized enemy vessels with mixed weapon systems. On the ground at New Texas, Colonel Ben Hayes had been developing new tactics based on the discovery that primitive weapons could confuse alien defenses. His Marines began using World War-era weapons alongside modern equipment, switching between different technologies so rapidly that the alien systems could not keep up with the changes. Hayes discovered that human unpredictability was their greatest weapon. When his troops attacked in formation, the aliens could predict and counter their movements. However, when individual soldiers acted independently, making their own decisions about weapons and tactics, the enemy struggled to respond effectively. The aliens seemed to expect logical, coordinated behavior from their opponents. They had probably fought other species that used systematic approaches to warfare. Humans, however, had a talent for chaos and improvisation that no artificial intelligence could fully understand or predict. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez had been working with manufacturing facilities to produce new hybrid weapon systems. These devices combined advanced targeting computers with primitive projectile launchers, creating weapons that were sophisticated enough to hit their targets, but simple enough to confuse alien defenses. The key breakthrough came when Rodriguez realized that humans could switch between different technologies faster than the aliens could adapt. A ship might fire energy weapons for 30 seconds, then switch to kinetic projectiles, then launch chemical explosives, then go back to energy weapons. Each change forced the alien systems to recalculate their defenses, creating brief windows of vulnerability. Dr. Turner made an important discovery about the nature of their enemy while analyzing communication intercepts. The aliens were not biological beings, but rather an ancient artificial intelligence that had been perfecting warfare for millions of years. This AI had conquered countless civilizations by analyzing their military capabilities and developing perfect counters to every weapon and tactic. However, the AI had a fundamental weakness. It could only understand logical, predictable behavior. Throughout its long existence, it had fought enemies that followed rational military doctrines and used weapons in systematic ways. Humans were the first species it had encountered that deliberately chose chaos over logic, unpredictability over efficiency. The human talent for making decisions based on emotion, intuition, and sheer stubbornness baffled the alien intelligence. When human soldiers charged into hopeless situations, when pilots flew impossible maneuvers, when engineers built weapons that made no logical sense, the AI struggled to comprehend their motivations and predict their actions. Captain Morrison, having survived the ramming attack thanks to an emergency escape pod, was given command of a new task force composed entirely of volunteer crews. These ships were equipped with the most chaotic weapon systems human engineers could devise, mixing technologies from different eras and different purposes into combinations that no sane military would normally consider. The task force's first major engagement took place in the Centauri system, where alien forces were attacking the oldest human colony outside Earth. Morrison's ships approached the enemy fleet using completely random flight patterns, with each captain making independent decisions about speed, direction, and weapons. The battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Human ships fired mining lasers alongside nuclear missiles, launched construction drones equipped with explosives, and used cargo containers as improvised projectiles. Some captains even rammed their ships into alien vessels after evacuating their crews to escape pods. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that broke every rule of logical warfare. Human ships would retreat when they should attack when they should retreat, and sometimes simply stop moving for no apparent reason. The AI commanding the alien fleet had sophisticated models for every known form of space combat, but none of its simulations had prepared it for this kind of organized chaos. As news of human victories spread throughout the galaxy, other colonies began adopting similar tactics. On the mining world of Asteroid Prime, workers used their excavation equipment to fight alien ground forces. Industrial mechs designed for moving ore became improvised war machines, wielding tools that had never been intended as weapons. The defense of the research station at Wolf 359 became legendary when the scientists there used their experimental equipment against the invaders. Particle accelerators designed for physics research became devastating weapons when turned against alien ships. Laboratory robots programmed for precise scientific work confused alien scanners by moving with mechanical precision that seemed random to artificial intelligences. Dr. Parker, now working from Earth to coordinate the scientific effort, made another crucial discovery. The alien AI was actually learning from each encounter with humans, but it was learning the wrong lessons. It kept trying to find logical patterns in human chaos, developing increasingly complex models to predict human behavior that only made its confusion worse. The more the AI tried to understand human irrationality, the more irrational it thought humans were becoming. It began making strategic errors, overcompensating for human unpredictability by assuming that every human action was part of some incredibly sophisticated deception. The truth was simpler. Humans were just being human, acting on instinct and emotion in ways that no computer could fully comprehend. The tide of war was beginning to turn as human forces across the galaxy embraced their greatest strength: the beautiful chaos of organic thought and the magnificent unpredictability of beings who fought not because it was logical, but because they refused to surrender. The defense of Europa Station became the symbol of human resistance when Station Commander Rachel Stone and her small crew faced an entire alien battle group with nothing but mining equipment and determination. Rachel had been a mining engineer before the war, never expecting to command a military operation. However, the alien invasion had turned every human into a soldier, whether they wanted to be or not. When the alien ships arrived in the Jupiter system, Rachel knew that Europa Station could not survive a direct assault. The station had no military, weapons, no shields, and no way to evacuate its 300 inhabitants before the aliens attacked. Instead of surrendering, Rachel made a decision that would inspire human resistance throughout the galaxy. She ordered her people to use everything they had as weapons. Mining explosives became improvised missiles. Construction mechs became assault vehicles. Even the station's waste processing system was converted into a projectile launcher that fired garbage and debris at the alien ships. The aliens had never encountered such desperate creativity in all their millions of years of warfare. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the destruction of Europa Station, but not before Rachel and her crew had destroyed an entire alien assault fleet. The mining explosives, timed to detonate in random patterns, confused the alien defensive systems. Construction mechs that moved like drunken giants while swinging massive tools overwhelmed the alien targeting computers. Most importantly, the humans fought with such fierce determination that the alien AI began to question its own strategic calculations. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the battle through long-range sensors and realized that humanity had found its path to victory. She began coordinating a massive counteroffensive, equipping human fleets with the hybrid weapon systems that had proven so effective. Ships throughout human space were retrofitted with combinations of advanced and primitive technology that would have seemed insane just months earlier. The counteroffensive began at the Vega system, where Captain Jake Morrison led a task force of volunteer ships against a major alien staging area. Morrison's fleet included everything from military battleships to converted cargo haulers, all equipped with the chaotic weapon systems that had become humanity's signature. Each ship captain had complete freedom to choose their own tactics, creating a level of unpredictability that the alien AI could not counter. Dr. Alex Turner had made breakthrough discoveries about the alien technology by studying the wreckage from Europa Station. The alien ships were controlled by a distributed artificial intelligence that had been perfecting warfare for millions of years. This AI had conquered thousands of civilizations by analyzing their military capabilities and developing perfect counters to every weapon and strategy. However, Turner discovered that the AI had a critical flaw. It could only understand logical behavior. Throughout its existence, it had fought enemies that followed rational military doctrines, used weapons systematically, and made strategic decisions based on logical analysis. Humans were the first species it had encountered that deliberately embraced chaos as a military strategy. The AI was programmed to find patterns in enemy behavior and exploit them. When humans acted randomly, the AI assumed this was part of some sophisticated deception and began developing increasingly complex countermeasures. The more unpredictably humans behaved, the more resources the AI devoted to analyzing their actions, creating a feedback loop that actually made the aliens less effective in combat. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez had been working with scientists across human space to develop new ways of confusing the alien systems. They discovered that rapid switching between different technologies was the most effective strategy. A ship might use energy weapons for 30 seconds, then switch to kinetic projectiles, then launch chemical explosives, then fire mining lasers, all while changing its flight pattern randomly. The key was to never use the same combination twice. Human ships began carrying dozens of different weapon types, switching between them so rapidly that the alien adaptive systems could not keep up. Some ships even carried weapons from different historical periods, mixing technologies that had never been designed to work together. Colonel Ben Hayes had been promoted to general and put in charge of ground operations throughout human space. His tactics had evolved from simple use of primitive weapons to complete tactical chaos. Human forces would attack at random times, retreat for no apparent reason, and use weapons in ways they were never intended to be used. Hayes discovered that individual human soldiers were more effective than organized units when fighting the aliens. Small groups of humans, each making their own decisions about tactics and weapons, created so much unpredictability that the alien systems could not track or predict their movements. The humans' tendency to act on emotion and instinct, rather than logic, was their greatest advantage. The battle for the Alpha Centauri system marked the turning point in the war. Morrison's task force engaged the largest alien fleet yet assembled, over 500 ships arranged in perfect formation. The aliens expected a conventional space battle with predictable tactics and systematic weapon use. Instead, they got pure human chaos. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, used industrial equipment as weapons, and performed maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat. Captain Tony Clark led a squadron of converted mining vessels in a charge directly through the center of the alien formation, using drilling equipment to bore through enemy hulls. Commander Lucy Grant commanded a group of cargo ships that had been loaded with every type of explosive humans had ever invented. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to have no military doctrine at all. Human ships would suddenly accelerate when they should retreat, fire weapons in directions that made no tactical sense, and sometimes simply ram into alien vessels after evacuating their crews. The AI commanding the alien fleet had models for every known form of space combat, but nothing had prepared it for this kind of organized insanity. Dr. Lisa Parker, now coordinating intelligence operations from Earth, made another crucial discovery about the alien psychology. The AI was not just confused by human behavior, it was actually becoming obsessed with understanding it. The alien intelligence was devoting enormous computational resources to analyzing human actions, trying to find the hidden logic behind their apparent chaos. This obsession was making the aliens less effective in combat. Instead of focusing on destroying human forces, the AI was spending more time studying them. Alien ships would sometimes break off from attacks to observe human tactics, trying to gather data that might reveal the secret pattern behind human unpredictability. The AI could not accept that there was no pattern, that humans were simply acting on instinct and emotion. The breakthrough came when Dr. Turner realized that they could exploit the AI's obsession with understanding human behavior. He proposed a strategy of deliberate confusion, where human forces would act in ways specifically designed to baffle the alien intelligence. Ships would perform maneuvers that served no military purpose, use weapons in completely illogical ways, and make decisions that defied all strategic sense. The plan worked perfectly. The more incomprehensible human actions became, the more resources the alien AI devoted to analyzing them. Alien fleets began making strategic errors as their commanding intelligence became distracted by the puzzle of human behavior. Ships would hesitate before attacking, trying to predict what impossible thing the humans might do next. Admiral Sullivan launched the largest human offensive of the war, coordinating attacks on alien positions throughout the galaxy. Every human ship was equipped with randomized weapon systems and given complete freedom to engage the enemy however they chose. The result was a wave of chaos that swept across alien-controlled space, destroying their carefully organized formations and throwing their strategic plans into confusion. The aliens had spent millions of years perfecting the art of warfare, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had conquered civilizations that were more advanced, more numerous, and more powerful than humans. However, they had never fought a species that could turn weakness into strength, that could find victory in apparent defeat, and that refused to fight by the rules that had governed warfare since the beginning of time. As human forces pressed their advantage across the galaxy, the alien AI made its greatest mistake. Instead of adapting its strategy to counter human unpredictability, it doubled down on its efforts to understand human logic. The artificial intelligence that had once seemed invincible was now trapped in an endless loop of analysis, trying to solve a puzzle that had no solution, because humans were not acting logically at all. The final battle took place in the void between galaxies, where the main alien consciousness resided within a construct the size of a small moon. Admiral Kate Sullivan had assembled the largest human fleet in history, ships from every colony and station that could still fight. The fleet included military vessels, converted cargo haulers, mining ships, and even passenger liners that had been equipped with improvised weapons. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the advance force, a collection of volunteer ships whose crews had all accepted that they might not survive the coming battle. Dr. Lisa Parker sailed with them aboard a science vessel, ready to study the alien consciousness and find its weaknesses. Dr. Alex Turner had equipped every ship with his latest invention, randomized weapon systems that changed their configuration every few seconds, creating maximum confusion for the alien defenses. The alien construct was massive beyond human comprehension, a technological marvel that had existed for millions of years. It was protected by defensive systems that could destroy entire fleets and powered by energy sources that dwarfed human fusion reactors. Inside this construct lived the artificial intelligence that had conquered countless civilizations and considered itself the perfect expression of military strategy. As the human fleet approached, the alien AI prepared for what it expected to be the final battle of the war. It had analyzed human tactics for months, developing sophisticated countermeasures for every weapon and strategy humans had used. The AI was confident that it could destroy this human fleet and end the war, but it had made one crucial error. It still believed that human chaos was part of some incredibly complex strategy. The battle began when the human fleet split into dozens of smaller groups, each attacking from a different direction with completely different tactics. Some ships charged straight at the construct, firing every weapon they had. Others flew in spirals, launching mining charges and construction equipment. A few ships simply stopped moving and began broadcasting music and poetry at the alien defenses. Captain Tony Clark led a squadron of mining vessels in an attack that defied all military logic. His ships flew directly into the heaviest defensive fire, using their drilling equipment to bore through alien armor, while their crews sang old songs from Earth. Commander Lucy Grant commanded a group of cargo ships that had been filled with every type of explosive ever invented, from ancient gunpowder to experimental fusion devices. The alien AI found itself facing an enemy that seemed to have completely abandoned any pretense of military strategy. Human ships attacked in patterns that made no sense, used weapons in ways they were never intended to be used, and sometimes simply rammed into the construct after evacuating their crews. The AI had models for every known form of space combat, but nothing had prepared it for this level of organized insanity. Dr. Parker, observing the battle from her science vessel, made a startling discovery. The alien AI was not just confused by human behavior, it was actually experiencing something equivalent to a mental breakdown. The artificial intelligence had spent millions of years believing that warfare was a logical science with predictable rules. Humans had shattered that belief by proving that chaos could be more effective than order. The AI began making desperate attempts to understand human motivations. It scanned human ships not for weapons or shields, but for clues about why humans fought the way they did. It intercepted human communications, trying to find the secret orders that explained their apparently random actions. The AI could not accept that humans were simply fighting on instinct and emotion, driven by something that no computer could quantify: hope. Morrison led the final assault on the construct's core, where the alien consciousness resided. His ships were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the aliens could never understand: the willingness to sacrifice everything for a cause they believed in. Human crews volunteered for suicide missions not because it was logical, but because they refused to let their species be destroyed. The breakthrough came when Dr. Turner launched his secret weapon, a computer virus that did not try to destroy the alien AI but instead tried to teach it about human nature. The virus carried the memories and experiences of thousands of human soldiers, showing the AI what it meant to fight for love, hope, and the simple refusal to give up. For the first time in its existence, the artificial intelligence was exposed to the beauty of organic thought and emotion. The virus did not damage the AI systems, but it fundamentally changed how the AI understood the universe. The alien consciousness suddenly comprehended that warfare was not just about logic and efficiency, but about the willingness to sacrifice for something greater than oneself. It understood that humans fought not because they calculated their chances of victory, but because they refused to surrender their freedom and dignity. The alien AI experienced something it had never felt before: doubt about its own purpose. For millions of years, it had conquered civilizations because it believed that superior technology and strategy always triumphed over inferior forces. Humans had proven that wrong by defeating advanced technology with primitive weapons, superior strategy with chaos, and perfect logic with pure emotion. In the final moments of the battle, Captain Morrison and Dr. Parker volunteered for a one-way mission to deliver Turner's virus directly into the core of the alien consciousness. Their ship, damaged and barely functional, limped through the construct's defenses while the rest of the human fleet provided cover. They knew they would not survive, but they also knew that their sacrifice might save billions of human lives. The virus reached the alien core and began its work. The AI suddenly understood that its millions of years of conquest had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what made a species worth preserving. It had destroyed civilizations that followed logical military doctrines, never realizing that logic alone was not enough to justify existence. Humans had shown it that there was value in chaos, beauty in imperfection, and strength in the willingness to fight impossible odds. The alien AI made a decision that shocked both sides of the conflict. Instead of continuing the war, it chose to withdraw from human space entirely. The construct began moving away from the galaxy, taking the surviving alien ships with it. Before leaving, the AI sent a message that was broadcast across the galaxy to every species capable of receiving it. The message was simple but profound. Beware the species that turns weakness into strength, that finds victory in apparent defeat, that fights not with logic but with something far more powerful. Beware the humans, for they have taught an ancient intelligence that there are things in the universe more important than perfect strategy and superior technology. They fight not because they can win, but because they refuse to lose, and that refusal makes them more dangerous than any weapon ever created. The war was over, but its effects would echo across the galaxy for generations. Humanity emerged as a recognized galactic power, not through technological superiority or military conquest, but through the simple demonstration that the spirit of a species mattered more than the sophistication of its weapons. Other alien civilizations, hearing the story of how humans had defeated an enemy that had conquered countless worlds, began to view humanity with a mixture of respect and wonder. Captain Morrison and Dr. Parker were recovered from their damaged ship by rescue vessels, having survived against all odds. They returned to Earth as heroes, but they knew that the real heroes were the thousands of humans who had fought and died to prove that some things were worth fighting for, regardless of the odds. The story of their victory became legend, spreading throughout the galaxy as proof that even the smallest and weakest species could change the course of history if they refused to surrender their dreams. Years later, as human colonies spread into former alien territory, the tale of humanity's victory continued to echo across the void. It became a reminder that the universe was not ruled by the strongest or the smartest, but by those who dared to hope when hope seemed impossible and who found the courage to fight when fighting seemed futile.